Hey y'all, I don't do these chats too often, but I think it's really relevant, and I'm excited to talk about it with you guys today because I have noticed in my business that I'm regularly hiring vendors and agencies and supplemental services to just round out how I help people. So if you're new to the podcast or new to me, what you may know from listening here is, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, but I actually run a top business consultancy. So I work privately with other entrepreneurs or people who are seeking to build a business, and I help them with what they don't know. It's very similar to being a fractional CEO, meaning as you're learning to be a CEO, I help you fill in the gaps. So if you're like, is this an accountant problem? Is this a bookkeeper problem? Is this I need help developing the product? What is it? I also specialize in pivots. So if your business has been making a certain amount of revenue and you're stuck, or if your business is, you're ready to branch into like a whole new direction, like I want to write that book, or I want to land that TV show, or I honestly want to add 2 franchises, like that's what I do. And I've done that for, without showing my age, over a decade now. Privately, and I've done that for almost 2 decades in corporate America. You can check the LinkedIn for the receipts. But all that being said, that's what I do for a living, and I do it very well, and it's like my bread and butter, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. My clients come to visit me in Beverly Hills in my office, and I work with everyone from, your local chiropractor up to, the housewife that you see on TV, and it's been a blessing. All that being said, in the past couple years, I've had to really look at running my own business in addition to servicing other people's business. So, universally, I think we all know this. We're not as good at taking care of ourselves as we may be at taking care of other people, right? So you know that you're supposed to eat right and eat your vegetables, but you don't eat them, but you tell your kid to eat them all the time, right? Like we all have those habits. So when it comes to my business, I am fortunate. I've been able to grow it, scale it, keep it in the millions. But that was something that, is hard to do when you're also managing other people's businesses. And sometimes you have to take your own advice. And that leads me to what the past couple years have looked like in my business. So as we all know, the economy has been wonky. Wonky, super expensive, inflation with the prices going up, interest rates bananas, it's just been all over the place. Now, if you are one of my students or clients, you know that I've been talking about how this is a normal thing, right? The financial markets are cyclical, right? They go in circles and there's a journey and we always circle our way back around. So this isn't entirely unexpected. And one of the moves that I made years ago, I think it's been a little over 2 years now, coming up on 3, was I let go of excess members of my team. Now, this isn't a conventional layoff situation. It's a downsizing of my team where it made sense based on the products I was delivering. Let me explain a little further. And this is going to lead to, I got a story for y'all and a lesson for y'all. So the downsizing of my team was related to products. So a lot of people will be like, laying people off is awful. And oh my gosh, you're shrinking your team. What does that mean? There's a lot of negative associations that go along with that because we're all humans and we know the impact, right, of people losing their jobs, or people having to shift their careers. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is that if you are no longer having a certain product line, it is not being a responsible business owner to continue to employ people in that product line. Furthermore, as someone who's a consultant, one of the things that I knew right out of the gate was if I can let these people go now, years ago, their odds of getting a better job placement in the market were significantly better than if I retained them for another 1.5 years and they were trying to get a job in this current market. It's a lot harder now than it was then. And also, in the interest of trying to be, a good boss, even in the separation, I made sure to pay them well, give them severance, just all of those things, give them job placement services, give them support, like all of that. And a lot of my employees also were encouraged to have side hustles of some degree. And some of them are actually directly placed into other jobs, with my assistance. So I do try to do right by people in that respect. It's funny because I think a lot of people who come and work for me are always surprised because there's the Nicole Walters on the internet who is, playful, light, cracking jokes, living her life with her family, the good Christian woman full of grace. But I run a tight ship. And I think a lot of people are always surprised. I actually have stopped trying to hire people who were previous students or clients or things of that sort because of the fact that I think a lot of people conflate who I am online with how I run a business. And you don't run the business that I run and stay in business for as long as I have, which is over a decade, by being soft. And I'm not soft. And I whatever you heard is true. I am a tough cookie and a tough customer, which is why I'm here and continue to be here. But all that being said, I definitely pay people what they're owed, and I offer structure, to make sure things are done right. So all that being said, that was a huge part of me running my business. Now, to give you some context around this, I had a team of close to 16 people, especially if you add some of my long-term vendor relationships. And I had a full headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, with a conference room, multiple offices, a kitchen, it was a full office there, for my company, Inherit Learning Company. And I just opened up an office suite here in Beverly Hills that, is in a gorgeous building, all that stuff. But y'all, and this is the underline it, bold it, if it's in your brain, and if you're thinking of this, please erase it. Having a huge team is not the flex you think it is. It is not. I don't even know where that came from. It screams, a lack of awareness around how business is actually run. Human capital, which is, the people on your staff, right, is like the number 2 place where people, or maybe it's number 1, maybe it changes back and forth, where people lose money in their business because they overhire and they overpay. And I don't know what people are showing on the internet or whatever, but people be like, I got a team of 100. Let me fill my office. I've got 25 people on staff. I've got 30 people on staff. And they think it's such a flex. Now, my team grew in scale because there's a fine dance between making sure you're able to facilitate the products you have in-house, right? Like, if I'm throwing an event, I want to have enough staff members who are helping that event. If I'm having a launch of a product, I want to have enough, support to make sure people are getting what they need and the customer service is up and all that. But it's a dance. You have too many people and you got a bunch of people standing around doing nothing, and you're spending money on them. Or you start having bleed into people who are getting hired and paid a lot but not qualified, right? So one of the things that, I started running into is you get people who think they're excellent at their job, or they think that they're doing well, but really they're frankly fairly mediocre, right? And mediocre, not in a judgmental, mean way. It's just that they just don't know how not good they are, which is, I'm seeing that more and more. You'll get people who think that they're doing a really good job because they wrote an email with AI, but they realize they lack the writing skills and ability to edit that email so that it is grammatically correct or that it is functional. The fact that you know how to leverage AI is a wonderful, unique, special talent. The fact that you have an inability to actually write that email yourself and edit it is a problem. And if you are expecting me to pay you 6 figures, I expect to see both suite of skills. If you're able to come in and facilitate the job, that is wonderful, right? And this is something I ran into a lot and continue to run into, is that you'll get people who will come in and they know how to replicate something they have learned. So I have learned how to create a sales funnel on the internet. And for those of you who aren't business gurus, it's basically the thing that makes you click to buy, and then it sends you to the next thing, which makes you buy another thing, and then you check out, right? They're like, I know how to build this funnel, but they don't actually have the experience or the creativity to know how to edit something so it fits you. Essentially, a simple way to understand it is, if you're a stylist who can only dress people because you buy the outfit off the mannequin, you are not a stylist. If you are a chef who can only create a meal if half of the components come out of a jar in advance, you're able to combine things. You're maybe like a food prepper in general, like a sous chef, but a chef can make from scratch, and furthermore, chefs go to culinary school and they have experience. They put in the hours, and it's great that you know how to cook, but at the end of the day, cooking a couple meals does not a chef make, right? And I think that the internet has given people a false sense of confidence around what it looks like to be a business owner versus what it actually is to be a business owner. And that brings me to a situation I had recently, where, and I'm going to be transparent, this is a specific situation that's kind of like, I don't want to say the straw that broke the camel's back, but it kind of like, it was the nail that kind of like was like, oh, okay, so this is actually a thing, right? So over the years, I've seen this plenty where, I'll see people on the internet and I'm like, oh, they're flexing that they have these huge teams, or they're flexing that they have these massive client lists, or they're flexing that they just, have wait lists that just doorbuster, right? Everybody wants to work with them. And you're looking and you're saying to yourself, this is not giving what I think they think it's giving, right? And furthermore, if you've been doing this a long time like I have, and I hate saying long time, but the truth is, I am 7 months pregnant and I haven't had Botox in a long time. The face is telling what the face is telling. She's an old gal, okay? She's a dinosaur in this space. And I have been watching this for a while. And at this point, I'm pretty comfortable and confident in, and giving room to the fact that I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. For some people, I could be wrong. But I know that when my discernment kicks in, and the math isn't mathing, I know what I'm looking at. And there are some people where, I'm not even kidding, I will see them say things like, I have an agency or an organization and we service 30 to 50 clients, whatever. And you're doing this in the form of a retainer or a package style product, which means I know roughly, even if I go with your smallest size package, if you're saying you have this many clients on staff, how much monthly and annual revenue you're generally bringing in through at least that line of business, assuming you may have others, things like that. When I hear you say something like you also have a staff of 40 or 30 with 50 clients on staff, a 1-to-1 ratio, staff members to accounts, is bananas. It's like saying every time someone goes to the bank and opens up a new account, we hire a new teller. That is not sustainable. That math does not math. The only way it would work is maybe if all of your team is outsourced internationally, or if all of your team is severely underpaid or working for free. Either way, even if those were the numbers, you're not in a position to grow something called working capital, which is basically your ability to be your own bank for your company. You're not retaining enough money in order for you to grow and scale. So people say things on the internet that tell on themselves, you know what I mean? Where you're like, that's not a thing. Like, that does not make sense, right? It's like saying, oh, I'm a world-class chef, and I say, hand me that saute pan, and you hand me a stock pot. A chef knows the difference between a saute pan and a stock pot. So clearly, you're not what you're saying you are. And what's interesting is in this internet space, what I'm noticing is that those statements are not being made, and this is to the credit of the people, right? Those statements are not being made from a place of deliberate like fraud or misleading. I really think people think it's a flex. Like, I really think that it's happening and it's become this new age form of marketing where people feel good being out there saying like, I've done this much or it looks this way or what have you, thinking that it'll help get them more business, but they don't realize it's just kind of telling on themselves. Like, if I hear that you have a product that's like $3K and you have 25, accounts, and you're bringing in just shy of $100K a month and it's $1 million a year, but you're spending $500,000 on your staff. No good business spends 50% of their revenue on staff. And like, if you think I can't do that math quickly in my head and realize like you must not be the business owner you say you are, either you are lying, you are really, really dumb, or you don't know how to do the math yourself. Either way, it doesn't look good on you, And I've been running into this a lot. A lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like, even when my clients come to me, which the nice part is, it's all fixable, which is what I love about the work I do, is I'll have clients who come in and sometimes those are their numbers. Real talk. Like, they'll come to me and they're like, I spend way too much on my team. I've hired my sister and I pay her $120K and she doesn't do her job. Or I was in this situation once where I had a staff member who, I was paying market. I always pay my teams have always gotten market rate as in addition to benefits. And I had a team member that their job primarily was to review stuff that was like really important for like compliance and liability and things of that sort. And they were just terrible at their job. And when I say terrible, I mean, it was a complicated situation where I wasn't able to release them without some additional complications. But I ended up spending money constantly having their work reviewed. And I am still to this day fixing issues around work that they did, and did like incorrectly or didn't do or delayed on, or, they might have done some things right, but man, it just wasn't worth it. And if I'd had me as a consultant, right, I'm in my own head, but again, we aren't always as good about our own stuff, how quickly I would have let this person go because they just weren't worth the headache that they have cost me more now than they did then, And so a lot of times when people come in to work with me, that is such a huge part of it. We're reviewing their human capital. Why are you paying this person this much? Why are you paying this vendor, this virtual assistant that you don't know how to use? People will cash your check and not do the work. They will have no problem doing that, or they'll come in and say they have this suite of skills, but it isn't up to par. Listen, friends, hear me now. If you have that nanny and you do not like the way that she prepares your kids' meals, or she's always late, or she doesn't take let them go. Let them go. Release them, right? If you have that staff member, that assistant that is always messing up your calendar, or that you feel like you always have to second check and do their work, let them go. Let them go. Stop paying them full-time money for half-rate work. That doesn't make sense, especially if part of the reason why you have that team member is because it's feeding your validation and your ego flex of, I have a team, I have support, I'm more of a business owner because I have an office, I have a warehouse, I have, an assistant that travels with me, whatever. Let them go. Let them go. I've had, assistants before, like my current assistant's been with me for years now and is excellent, right? Not flawless, because none of us are, right? We always have to issue that grace, but really excellent. Just a very good fit for our life, a very good fit for our understanding, values, all of that. And I say our because, any assistant that I personally have, it not only has to do with my office, but there is overlap with, some of my personal life because of the nature of work I do, like with TV, branding, whatever. And I have to tell you, comparatively, when I look at the quality of the assistant that I have now and her breadth of skills and abilities and how she shows up, it's so different than previous people I had before. And a lot of that had to do with the way that I went about hiring. So, in this situation, because this is also the number one thing that like my friends who are like real fancy pants celebrities and stuff will text me, like, how do you get an admin? How do you get an assistant? The number one thing that happens is they're looking for like recommendations. They're looking to see who's, new to town. They're looking to, they'll hire a sister or a cousin or a daughter or whatever else. And it's like, if you are running a proper business and you are an executive, you need an executive assistant. I went through a hiring company. I went through a staffing company and I said, look, I move real money, right? Like your local plumber makes $100K a year. I make significantly more than the local plumber, and that plumber has a real receptionist at the front desk. So why am I treating myself just because I feel like it's more casual? Why am I not hiring someone who can work on my level the way I need them to, right? So I was like, I need a C-suite executive assistant. I need someone who has been in an office, knows how to manage calendars, all of that. And they told me outright, they were like, look, sis, if you do that, be prepared to recognize that between salaries, bonuses, benefits, you are looking at someone at over 6 figures in terms of the package for the level of behavior, quality, expertise, breadth, and talent. And I was like, okay. Because if I'm able to pay this person's salary at that level, including providing benefits and all of those things, it will assure that I will be able to continue to generate revenue. Like this is the foundation of my business, and at that level as well. A lot of y'all are saying you want a great assistant, but you want to pay $30,000 a year and no benefits. You're going to get what you pay for. You know what I mean? You're going to get what you pay for. Now, I've paid other assistants and given them great opportunities and provided everything from shelter, housing, support, medical care, you name. I've done all of the things, for previous admins, assistants, house managers, people who've worked with me. And it just came down to the quality of effort and work, right? It's just mediocre. But also being aware that I accepted what I shouldn't have accepted. And also being aware of, and a lot of these people will give you their best, but they don't realize that their best isn't even on par until they get next to someone who actually knows how to do the job. And they're just like, holy cow, like I didn't realize how far off I was. And it ain't that life, right? You're thinking I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the land of everybody who is the best in their town. Like, you'll get the best singer, actress, whoever from Montana will come to LA and be like, I don't even stack up with what's out here. Just like how my little one at one point said she wanted to be on Disney, and she was super excited, just like normal little kid stuff. It wasn't anything like weird. Like, it's not like she was like, oh my God, this is my dream. It wasn't even that. It was like, oh, like I think she got like targeted on like YouTube or something for like an ad saying like, oh, there's Disney auditions, which we also know that all those things are fake anyways. They're not even real auditions. They're just like scammy things. But gets targeted for that, and she like hits me up like, I want to be on Disney, whatever. And mind you, bless her sweetheart, has not taken a dance class to save her life, has not taken a singing class to save her life, does not play any instruments, like just didn't know what she was asking, right, at that age. I think she was probably like 9 or something like that. Just didn't know what she was asking at that age, but it just sounded cool based on what she saw on Disney. It was aspirational. Y'all, we are all like this. Literally, people say, I want to be a billionaire. You don't know what it takes to be a billionaire. You don't know what billionaire stress is. I want to be a business owner with like 25, 30, 40 employees. Look, I know what that looks like because I've done it and I've helped run it. And I can tell you right now, some of y'all don't look like that, or some of y'all look like you are going through it because that's not what you want and that's not what you can handle. So of course, I explained to her, I'm like, look, I just want to let you know, this is kind of what it looks like to do this type of work, and I don't think this is going to happen. And she was upset, right? Rightfully so. She's not emotional management, like whatever. She was upset. She was like, why are you stopping my dreams? You know what I mean? Like that type of energy, and because she, again, did not understand, which is commonplace with employees and staff, right? People will be upset if they think that you are rejecting them to something that they feel entitled or capable of without even understanding the breadth of what it is you actually do. But recognize you do not owe them the breadth of it, because at the end of the day, they leave and go their own separate way, and you are still responsible for your own stuff. Like a phrase that we regularly use in our house is like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like my mid-tiny, and then to be clear, just to wrap up kiddo story, she now lives in LA, right? She's now 13. She's now actually had the blessing of seeing what it looks like when people are Disney kids. And she's like, that was insane. She's like, not only was that like not what I want, right? Because these kids she's watched like Dance Moms and stuff. She's like, oh, no. Because also, just to let you know, she's spicy. Okay, let somebody talk to her left, about stuff. That will be the last day, right? She's like, I don't have the spirit of energy to allow myself to be exposed to the way people would treat me in one of these Disney prep situations, because she would not last 5 minutes, because she would be like, no, what you're not going to do, right? So that dream is happily set aside, right? But going back to, working with employees and being business owners, again, nobody cares. I have never spent time explaining outside of what is obligated. And this is what's tough, right? It's really tough when you're an entrepreneur, because when you're an entrepreneur, the type of people you hire, you desire to have like the passion for the work that you do. And what's tough with the passion is that comes from someplace else that you can't really put on paper, but you have these employees come in and you hope that they're passionate, and you can tell when they're not. Some people, it's just a check and that's okay. And I'm realizing more and more, like, please just give me the service I pay for. I don't even we don't need to talk. We don't need to be friends. But at the end of the day, no one is going to care as much as you. And it is your thing and you're more responsible. And even if they do come into it with emotions and all that, the only obligation you have is to pay them in full on time, communicate well and have the expectations, hope that they do their job, give them grace, where you can give them grace, hold them accountable. And that's pretty much it, and try to be kind, the best that you can. Like, don't call them names or whatever, but that's the best you can do, but unfortunately in entrepreneurship and with the type of job that like someone like me has, or someone like you, if you're a digital entrepreneur or looking to branch into things or running something small or hiring friends and family, there's so much more that people attach to it. And they hold you to this, pedestal that you can be knocked off of when you didn't ask to be placed there, but those complaints and stuff are yours and nobody cares, And so what I've really learned sort of crossing the 40-year-old mark, in addition to, crossing the being a business owner for a while mark, over a decade, which is something I'm really proud of as a milestone, because most businesses don't last a year. Most businesses don't last 5. Look on the internet. Your favorite person who 5 minutes ago was selling, wellness supplements is now a ayahuasca journey mentor, and, then 10 minutes later is now a political commentator, like everyone's just all over the place, but I'm really proud that I can say I still do what I say I will do, as a living. And I've been here long enough. And, it doesn't mean I don't have disgruntled clients. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, right? There's no way that every time you go to McDonald's, the fries are always hot and perfect, but they've been around a long time because they're fairly consistent. And I take a lot of pride in that. But that said, a large part of that has also been being able to say, I don't know how to do that. Being able to say, I won't do that. Being able to say, you don't fit here anymore, or I don't like these terms anymore, or this isn't working for me anymore. And then also a lot of times saying, like we say in our home, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Meaning, and saying that to yourself, not to your employees, saying it to yourself. So I will have run into things that I've had to handle as CEO, and known very well that nobody cares. Like, girl, that's your thing to deal with. Deal with it with your therapist and Jesus, because your employees do not care. And your job is to show up and give them the check. And unfortunately, employees will still hold you to whatever regard, but they don't care. So like going through a divorce, going through, the challenge, because prior to a divorce, you're going through your challenges in your marriage, right? Going through putting my kids in rehab, going through stage 4 cancer. I ran a whole company while going through putting my daughter through stage 4 cancer chemotherapy. And we did not share that with the team until we'd reached a certain point in it. Why? Because as cold as it sounds, nobody cares, right? They still need to work, deliver, finish the product. I mean, they care in the respect of, we want you to be okay, and that's sad, and we're empathetic. Sure, we're humans, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything about the way they perform. And I need to just do my job, right? So not too long ago, one of my daughters was in the process of writing something for her school experience, and she needed to basically explain her case and get an approval. And she asked me to review her sort of explanation packet and letter and all that. And it was very well done. And her approval was granted, because it was well put together. But I edited it for her. And the number one thing she's 22, the number one thing I edited for was parts where she was like, do you know how this is impacting me? Do you know, this is the mistake that you guys made and I don't like it, phrasing like that. And again, all of it was valid. Everything she said was true. All of it was real, right? Just like if I look at my employee and say, do you know what I'm dealing with in my marriage right now? Do you know that my kid right now is in rehab? Do you know that my kid right now is stage 4 cancer? All these things are horrific. Do you know that my blood pressure is in stroke range? Do you know that I'm dealing with facial paralysis? All of these things are very real things. However, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Even if they knew the reason, they don't care. They just care about did I get my check? Was I paid? Is my family okay? Whatever. And also people will still judge you within their own parameters, And so it's one of those things where team building can be very difficult, but I found that having a smaller, streamlined team allows you to sort of bring people into your world in a delicate way, while also maintaining that professional boundary, because that boundary is real. Some of y'all barely have boundaries in your personal life and definitely don't have them in your work life, and raising hand, guilty, had to work on that, But when I tell you, when I hear someone has a lean team, meaning I only have 3 to 5 employees. We're able to make anywhere between 1 to 3 million with that. We hire agencies and vendor support as needed to scale or launch a product, and our overhead and expenses are low. That sounds like a great business owner to me. Not the person who's like, look at my massive office. Look at these 600 people behind me. Look at such and such. If that's the case, I expect to be seeing 9-figure revenue. Otherwise, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're telling on yourself. You're telling on yourself. So I just ask you, if you're someone who's looking to start a business and you're hearing what I'm saying and you're like, Nicole, this is actually really affirming, I'd like to get an admin. I always think an admin is a great first hire. You should be handling, $10,000 problems. You shouldn't be handling $10 problems. So an admin can help you with those things, and a great one pays for themselves tenfold. But I can't emphasize enough that it seems aspirational, but it's not. There's so many things that come along with management. And I don't mind managing at all. I just do not need to manage outside of where it's financially makes sense. And I've always, after a certain point, once it gets really big, I do hire people to manage for me. I'll hire another CEO or someone else to come in between, so that I can focus on the talent level of what I do. But all that being said, if you're new and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, these people seem amazing because they have these huge teams, or, oh, I have to get a huge team because I don't want to lose myself and get burnt out and whatever else. No, you don't. What you need is a good consultant who can help you figure out what you need to hire, who you need to hire, what you should be paying them, what the numbers look like, and also can keep it real with you. You want to hand off this one thing because you don't like it, but baby, it's still your task to do. You don't get to hand it off yet. You still need to learn the ins and outs of that business because that part is still yours. You still need to put in the elbow grease, but understand that that's worth it. And then you won't ever feel the need to be on the internet flexing that you have 100 plus employees, but little do you know, we're all looking and saying the math ain't mathing. So all that being said, don't be shy going into 2025 if you're thinking about starting a business, to either reach out to me or to, honestly, any great consultant, who's able to start with your numbers, start with your team, and help you build out your back end so that you can thrive on the front end. And of course, as you're scrolling around the internet looking at your business inspiration, listen to your discernment. Know that if you're seeing somebody out there who's boasting about the big things, it may not be the flex that you think it is.